today then, Jo?
We are off to see Laura Willoughby at Joint Club Soda, where we're going to talk about mindful drinking, because on our hot flush symptoms and how to deal with the menopause, we're always saying cut out your alcohol. It's so bad for so many reasons: diabetes, heart disease, storing the visceral fat around your big belly, and maybe we just need a little bit of support. Laura runs this, it's a non-medical sport site, and we're going to find out more about it. Yeah, off we go. Off we go. Great, we're here with Laura from Joint Club Soda about mindful drinking and how alcohol impacts, I suppose, on all aspects of our life, but for us it's menopause. And as we are always talking about reducing or cutting back, we thought we'd come to somebody who has a huge blog telling people how to cut out alcohol. And you have a blog on menopause and alcohol?
Yeah, so I did a blog about a year ago about menopause and alcohol, and I'm 42 now, nearly 43. And to be honest, I want them to whip my ovaries out there. So but after reading that, so I gave up drinking 5 years ago, and after reading what I had written, I sat there and thought, I'm so pleased I've given up drinking, because there isn't anything that the menopause does to your body that alcohol doesn't make worse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's really awful being a woman.
Exactly. Well, actually, that's one of our things we'll go. And sadly, alcohol, caffeine, all that food that you really quite like, anything you quite like, is not going to do you any good.
Yeah,
Quite honestly.
No, but I would also say that changing your drinking is good for a whole host of reasons. And if you're drinking quite a bit, then there's a lot you can gain from not drinking, and you gain time, you gain energy, you gain all sorts of other things. So it's not a bad experiment to go through, and now's a really good time to do it.
Yeah. I think it's completely about reevaluating and saying, I've got to a particular age, and you're at a really good age, by the way, to be sorting things out, because where we are at the moment is in the media or in our sort of psyche, we tend to approach the menopause or the perimenopause towards the end, but there's loads of change that you can put in place before, so you make these changes, so you're going into menopause in a really good
with awareness. I think that's the thing, is we just drift into it without proper awareness.
Yeah, that's going to change. Definitely.
Yeah, well, I think that's what we're about.
Hopefully we're going to be part of that. But you're absolutely right that alcohol exacerbates everything to do. It's going to increase your anxiety, your hot flushes,
your night sleep,
the effect on your heart, the effect on your bones,
your breast pain, and your osteoporosis, because alcohol leaches calcium from the bones. I didn't know that. Yeah. So when you go, lovely, refreshing end of day. Alcohol can be. It's a signifier, isn't it? The day's finished.
People see it as a way of relaxing.
But a bad day, or I'm socialising, and they don't think that glass of wine or that beer or that cocktail, it tastes nice at the time, but it then has that implication.
I think there are a number of things, which is, by and large, we're all drinking too much. I mean, unless you're not drinking at all, 15 units, if you ever know what units is. I mean, I've been doing this for 8 years now. I don't, care too much. But if you're drinking at least 2 glasses of wine a night, you're drinking more than what's recommended by the government. But regardless of what the government say, because I'm not so keen on that, it's about how it makes you feel. And what I've noticed is most of our members are age 35 and over, and that's because they've got to a point where they realise that a lot of their drinking has got incredibly habitual. A lot of it is daily, because it signifies the end of day, a hard, stressful day at work, or the time they put the kids to bed, and then they suddenly realise, hey, that's suddenly that goes up and up and up from 1 glass of wine to 2 glasses of wine and 3 glasses of wine, and the hangovers become harder to deal with. At the same time, you've got this consciousness that you're getting older, you need to get a bit fitter, it's harder to lose weight, and then alcohol affects all of those things too. And so it doesn't surprise me at all that the people that join Club Soda are at that age, but also that then how you choose to unpick that can be very personal. And my advice to everybody is to try taking a month off drinking. Whether you need to or not, or whether you think you need to or not, because it will teach you an awful lot about the habits you've got into. It will teach you an awful lot about the things that trigger you to drink, and you will begin to learn a lot about the things that you can put in its place, and it gives you a nice bit of time to do that. Because changing your drinking is a bit like doing a scientific experiment where you're both the subject and the scientist.
I like that.
And I guess going through the menopause is a bit like that as well, which is why looking at things before a lot of symptoms happen rather than after is probably a good idea, because what you're looking to do is change quite a very ingrained habit, a habit which is actually quite ingrained in our society, let alone in our daily lives. So it's quite hard for all sorts of different reasons, and so you need to learn. And each time you come across a situation where you find that you've drunk when you didn't really want to, you will learn from that and be able to take that forward. Whether your goal is to moderate or to quit in the longer term, moderation is possible. It's just quite hard because
I think it depends on the occasion that you're put into, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it can depend also on how your drinking was to begin with. I sort of I always say that my off switch broke when I was about 32. I became an extreme sport drinker, which meant I could, when I started drinking, I wouldn't be able to stop, and somehow my mind would be going, right, let's see how much I can drink and then still get up tomorrow morning. I wouldn't actually drink every day, but I didn't have children, it was easy to go out. And somehow I was in a boring job as well, and I guess late 30s, early 40s is a nice time for job crisis as well. It really got out of control, and I'm my father's daughter, right? My dad died of drinking, and I've inherited two things from him: his drink problem and his boobs. So I always knew I would have a high propensity to drink a lot, to drink, and that I could go exactly the same way as my dad, who was a clever but thwarted man, and alcohol got in the way of all of that. So I had to take control of that, and for me, moderating is not possible for two reasons. One is I'm really frightened that if I start drinking again, it would just
go back to where
it would
you
just
were,
go, and that happens a lot. Because it happens with diet as well. You might have noticed that. I was really good for 4 weeks on my not eating cake, and then I went, I need cake, and then I ate cake every day for weeks.
And then of course you stop dieting, or you stop not drinking because you've fallen off that.
You take your foot off the pedal, and then you seem to do it even worse than you did before.
And it's hard for us to go, do you know what, I've had a bad day, I'm just going back to it. It's like, I
can stop now.
I drink wine.
And also, I've gained too much from giving up drinking, and I don't want to lose any of that. And I can say that the gains are amazing. For there's also some hard stuff, like you actually have to deal with emotions without ever picking up a drink, and learning to deal with emotions, particularly if you've been drinking since you were 14, which I imagine actually our age group did, because you could drink in a pub underage. It's not possible now.
No one asked for you.
But I dealt with every emotion in my life since I was 14. Now with alcohol, now I have to learn to actually sit with the feelings and deal with them. It's actually quite difficult.
More self-awareness.
It's okay. And so there's all of that stuff as well. But so I've gained so much from not drinking. But also, if I was trying to moderate, I'd be spending all of my week thinking about the time I'm moderating, so I'd be thinking about drinking more, not less.
Can I drink tonight?
It's actually easier to just go, you know what, it's not for me anymore. And
how about dealing with the people who knew you as a drinker? How do you work around that? Because quite often I get
have a drink,
come
any of
on.
that.
Well, I mean, there are lots of things that can alcohol affects everything, right? It affects you physically and it affects you mentally hugely. And then we've got this huge societal pressure because we are in quite an alcohol-centric society. And what I love most about club sodas, I've created a monster, right? Because I go, for God's sakes, people, we don't have to put up with this. Phone up the pub in advance and tell them that if they haven't got anything good for you to drink, you're bringing your own, just so they know.
Right.
And pubs go,
something interesting.
Yeah, and pubs go, oh yeah, right, whatever. So I love it when people do that. So, but it does mean that all of the things around changing your drinking, you've got internal pitfalls. So the things like you're hungry, you're tired, you're angry, you're stressed, you feel you deserve it. All of those things, or you've got that little internal saboteur on your shoulder going, go on, go on.
It's only one.
Yeah, it's only one, and so on. You can start again tomorrow. That tomorrow. So there's all of that going on inside your head. then you've got loads of pressures, and you may have a partner that drinks, you may have friends who are persistent, you may be regularly known for going out and drinking. And I think there are a couple of things about that. One is that whatever you do, and in any behaviour change, whether you're dealing with cake or whether you're dealing with alcohol, you need to have a plan.
Yeah.
And I like to use a system called WHOOP in Club Soda, which is wish, outcome, obstacle, plan. What's your wish? My wish is to go out for after work drinks and not drink alcohol. My outcome is that if I do that, I will feel like Wonder Woman, and it'll be amazing.
You should have turned into Wonder Woman.
Yeah, and I would have done it, and I would have got through one of the hardest things in my diary.
Yeah.
Then you need to think about what are the obstacles. And the obstacles are that Jan from accounts will go on, just have one, go and have one. Or somebody will go, oh, are you pregnant? Or somebody will, or are you an alcoholic? Or say something that's really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So how are you going to plan for that? That's the beauty of the WHOOP. And you do have to plan. You have to say, right, well, today I'm not brave enough to say I've given up drinking. So I'm just going to say I've got an Ocado delivery coming at 8:30, so I have to leave early.
Yeah.
Or I'm not drinking because I'm driving at the other end. Or find an excuse. If that's what works for you at this point of time, do that now.
So it's a little strategy, or
It's a little strategy.
It's a little tool in your bag, because I think there is that. Oh, you're so boring, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, come on, and
practice saying it out loud as well. And
Yeah.
say, no, I'm not drinking today because I'm driving home.
Yeah.
I've
It's very
got-
personal as well. Saying I'm not drinking. I've given up drinking, because the inference is.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, people who know you well will
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
think, oh.
Well,
yeah.
people who don't will just.
No,
think,
but
oh,
what they're thinking is, oh shit, I always made sure that I didn't drink more than her so that I was okay. And now they're not drinking anything, which I can tell you. I had one friend who did that to me. Oh, damn, Laura, I always used to pace myself with you, and I knew you as a woman, if you were drinking that much, I was doing all right. Or it reflects back on them, and they think you're attacking them, because we are actually all really quite self-conscious of our drinking.
Yeah.
And so we're all quite itchy about it, and so we all get quite defensive when somebody else says they're not drinking. Or they think we're rebuking their hospitality just because they're not drinking champagne, just because it's champagne. You know, it's really how about your hospitality is I want to be here, and I want to spend time with you, not whether or not I'm drinking your champagne or not. So you have to practice all of these things, and you have to have strategies to control or escape, or have excuses.
Be strong-willed in terms of,
Yeah.
Well, because there's going to be times when your willpower isn't quite so.
Yeah,
It's a bit
especially if you're,
Yeah, but then you need to remind yourself why you're doing this. What's the wish that you're after?
Are we still whooping?
Yeah, you're still whooping. So you need to
Okay.
remind yourself
Yeah.
of the wish you're after and how that will make you feel. And you might also plan yourself a reward for when you get home.
Oh, I
so,
like a reward.
Yeah.
But not a glass of
But
wine.
it can't.
Not a glass of wine.
and not a donut.
No.
And not a donut, but
Yeah.
there's loads of really good alcohol-free beers
Yeah.
and wines out there, so you can actually fake it in the pub as well. But you might have a reward that says, right, because I'm coming home earlier and I still feel a bit happy and sprightly, I can go and have a really lovely bath. I can watch another episode from that box set.
Without falling asleep.
Yeah, I can actually, for me, frozen yogurt and some fruit is my treat when I get back from something that's been a bit difficult. So you need to bring, but because it's so ingrained in our reward structure as well.
We need to find a new reward.
Well, to be
basically.
honest, we drink because we're sad, we drink because we're happy, we drink because we feel we need a reward, we drink,
To have something in your hand.
And we all work hard, whatever we do.
Yeah.
We're exhausted at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So whatever the reason, we will do something. And for you're saying it's frozen yogurt and fruit.
Yeah.
And for other people, it might be a bit of dark chocolate and a nice cup of
Yeah.
herbal tea. So it's finding a substitute reward.
Yeah, absolutely.
And taking away, which will give you no negatives.
Because if I go to the pub and I'm spending the evening in the pub and I'm not drinking, but they do Scotch eggs as their bar meal, that's it. I'm having a Scotch egg. I tell you,
Not a pickled egg, though. Please.
No, don't
That's
like
my
them.
husband's kind of.
Yeah.
I'm
Please
kind
don't
of going
have-
down. There's a little bit of contrast there. Frozen yogurt and fruit, but you can treat yourself with a Scotch egg.
Yeah,
Yes,
well,
it's,
there we are.
It's
all
protein.
it's hardly any carbs in a Scotch egg, right? Okay, so there we are. But but it's got to work for you. And these things, there's lots of advice you can get from other people who have done the same thing. We're all not so different after all. And even if you're moderating, you still need to plan your alcohol-free days because they're easier to execute. Planning to only stick to 2 drinks is one of the hardest things because what the minute alcohol hits your brain and hits your pleasure centres, it goes,
Yeah. Well, that's where your inhibitions go.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that what gets you into trouble?
So you need to take some time out, go in the loo, read your whoop and decide why it is you chose to do this, take a walk around the block. And also remember, lots of people go, oh, well, you know, I'm at a party and I drink because otherwise it would be really boring. Well, you know what? If something's really boring, go home.
Yeah.
Why are you staying at something you don't enjoy? No, there is no rule that says you go to a party and you have to stay 4 hours.
Yeah.
You can go to a party, you can stay for an hour and
Yeah,
go home.
and again, you know, if you've got an excuse why you need to leave, you know, for whatever reason it is, it's
but planning
it's a
really
strategy,
works.
yeah.
And also you talked about whether your partner drinks and stuff like that, and persistent friends, and that's sort of the hardest because they've been used to having a drinking buddy. And you know, and that it can be really hard, particularly if a lot of your friendships have been based on a certain type of behaviour. And so I suggest that people can be you know, have the conversation we're really bad at having all the time, which is, you know what, I've made a decision to try something that's going to be better for my health, and I would really appreciate it as you, as my friend, as my partner, as my loved one, would help me do that over the next few months. So I would really like it if you could not badger me to have a drink over the next month,
or open that glass of bottle of wine at the end of the day.
I would really like it if you could help me find an alternative that I can drink when we're together. I would really appreciate it if we could shift the social things we do to things that are less boozy. If you can give people a really specific thing that they can do to help you, who doesn't want to help their mate? You know. And so rather than thinking that you're taking something away from them, which is what they might feel, you can go, right, no, I want you to help me on my journey. And then is there anything that you're doing for your health that I can help you with in return? And then suddenly it feels like a partnership and something you're doing as friends. And you're talking about it in the terms of I, and you know, so I'm not trying to stop you doing anything.
No.
I'm asking that we can do some things that are slightly
but
different.
also a bit more of a reasoning, you know, behind it, and asking for that support rather than just going right.
We're often not very good at saying what it is that we want and need.
And I think now is the time to be having those conversations, because there's quite a lot of change that will benefit women if they take control of their lives towards their... I'm not saying, you can live wildly until you're 40 and then you've got to go, oh my God, my perimenopause is hitting. However, everything that we're talking about here is going to have a knock-on effect on your overall physical, emotional and mental well-being. We're not advocating, any of us, anything that's going to cause you any damage. What you may be sad that you can't eat as many donuts as you want, but you know, you have to, like you say, you find something else that fits into it. So having conversations now, I think you're absolutely right, we're not very good at having them, and we need to start saying, because there's some very, very tricky stuff coming up in menopause, you know, that nobody, we all know about, you know, apparently you have hot flushes. I think that's all I knew before menopause. I didn't know about any of the others.
Well, I didn't know about the night sweats that, you know, are actually a similar thing, but, you know.
Whereas a lot of members say that they now,
you know, there's so much.
They avoid alcohol because of their night sweats. It just doesn't work for them anymore. And then after a while of not drinking, they realise they've actually gained some stuff, like some hours in the day, some energy in the morning. So actually, one of the things that I say a lot is, imagine if you could invent a pill, right, that helped you sleep better, lose weight, be more energetic, be more productive. It would make a fortune, right? But actually you can do all of that by taking alcohol out, or as much alcohol out of your diet, because it really does. So actually, as you go through the perimenopause and menopause, you might be able to balance out some of the effects of the menopause as well by not drinking, by giving yourself some more energy, being able to get up and run, not consuming empty calories. There are so many things about alcohol that you know, it spikes your blood sugar level, even though there's not a lot of sugar in some alcohol, because it got rid of in the production process. It acts just like a sugar in terms of raising and lowering your blood sugar level, which is why you go for a kebab at the end of the night out, right? So, and then you eat more calories the following day, and you're too lethargic to go to the gym.
And you never go, do you know, I'm really craving a pomegranate. You go, the next day I really want to
I've not had a KFC for 5 years, people. It's really exciting. So it's not just that those things are empty calories, it does all those things to you as well. It takes 2 days to get over a hangover in reality for your body, to get over a big night out. It also slows down your metabolism. So if on one hand you're trying to lose weight, and the other hand you're piling in a couple of glasses of wine every night, and that's affecting how much you eat as well, all of those things combine. And so being able to take a step back and say, right, let's see what a month feels like. Let's take a break. is a really good way to do that, doing a sober sprint. So
A sober sprint, I like that.
Yeah.
I like a little bit of an acronym.
Yeah, because actually some people carry on, some people do too. I can tell you it was 3 months before my energy came back. And it was amazing. 6 months before I felt like I was like clever again. And then it took me a year to realise that I no longer felt awkward at events when I didn't have a drink in my hand. You do feel awkward to begin with.
Did you avoid events initially?
I didn't avoid events because I'm very gobby, and I saw it as a challenge really, which I'm glad I did because I learned a lot.
Yeah.
But there was a point at the beginning where I thought, oh, I'm just not as much fun as I used to be. And then about a year in, I thought, hang on a minute, I just cracked a really good joke there. I am as much fun as I used to be, and I don't need a drink anymore. It's like a broken bone. Somehow it healed, but I don't quite know when. So it is all possible. It seems quite scary, but it's not as scary as you think.
I think also, and you'll know more about this than me, it's what you can drink when you go into a social setting. There's only so much mineral water you want to drink, or orange juice. I mean, I would never want to drink orange juice in the evening, but someone will say, oh, here's an orange juice. But when you go to a pub, we don't want to be drinking
I'm
Coke
so anti-orange juice. I went corporate events, do it all the time. Orange juice, 5.
Yeah.
I'm really bad at influencing people who might want to give us work by tweeting how awful their drink selections are.
But it's really important because you'll fall off that not drinking.
So I have a couple of tips for all of that. One is always carry a small bottle of cordial with you in your bag. I use a Muji shampoo bottle, the little squeezy one.
But you can get those. They now produce them, don't they? Those little
little ones. But you can do those as well. But I like to go for middle class elderflower cordial. Obviously. And so it means you've always got something you can drink in your bag. You've always got something to put in fizzy water. And I am such a cheap date in the pub these days. So that's one.
So what you're saying? Put some like elderflower cordial in a little Muji.
I've always got one in the front of my bag, so that whenever I'm in a
where
pub,
to go then.
So when so I always do that. The other is if you're going out for dinners and at restaurants, even going to a pub, phone up in advance and ask them what they've got. Tell them you're not drinking and could you bring your own alcohol-free wine. And actually loads of restaurants are fine with it. Some might charge you a small corkage, but you know what?
It's still cheaper than buying a bottle.
That's a really good idea because actually you might miss that sort of. It's a habit, so it's a tool,
something you want to
and
sip
you're nursing and it would
being
really...
sippable is really important because you talked about a Coke. Well, it's packed full of sugar, but also you drink a Coke quickly because you're thirsty. You don't sip it, and so it's about having something sippable. And I've actually got some props here. Let me do this. So and I'll tell you a little bit about alcohol-free drinks because it's a really good. If you are taking a month off or an extended period off, finding your favourite alcohol-free drinks is one of your great distractions because you can spend hours finding things, trying things. So you can try all sorts of things. And yes, you're right. Actually, bitters, Sam's Angostura bitters in tonic is really good. Fever Tree are doing their own flavoured tonics now, so you can just drink them on their own. Any cocktail bar, I like the Morello cherry tonics.
That sounds good.
There's even chocolate. Morello cherry bitters. They even do chocolate bitters, but I'm not quite sure how that tastes in tonic.
You don't want to mix your tonic and your chocolate.
No, I don't. I might have a bar of chocolate and a tonic.
But to drink, no.
Anyway,
stick with a hot chocolate.
So anyway, but there's a few things that you need to know about alcohol-free drinks. One is if you're always looking for something that will feel exactly the same as your alcoholic drink that you normally drink, you'll never quite find it. The alternative gin and tonics or the tonics and bitters in just won't give you that kick, which is basically the alcohol. So don't ever expect to get the same direct substitute and go hooray. The other is if you remember, and this is a terrible thing to say because it will break everyone's spirits really, but we learn to like alcohol. It's a learned behaviour because our body naturally repels it because it is a poison. So our body naturally goes no, and we go no, but we like the effects of drinking, right? So we do learn to like alcohol. You can learn to like the alternatives. It's not the end of the world. It just you have to retune your palate.
Yes, it's like giving up sugar in your tea.
And all that sort of stuff. So don't discard all the alternatives too quickly. The good news is there are lots of better alternatives out there now, and one of the drinks that actually does better without alcohol in is beer. Now I was never a beer drinker, But I really appreciate the fact that these are good quality products in their own right. And also, a beer's got, largely, they've all got about 3 ingredients in them, and one of those ingredients isn't sugar. So next to water, the healthiest thing you can drink in a pub is an alcohol-free beer. No sugar. So a bottle of Nanny State, which is made by Brewdog, 26 calories a bottle, no sugar.
Brilliant. And actually that's quite a nice bottle, because some of the alcohol-free products previously have been a bit like, oh, I'm not drinking, I've got this very sort of dull drink, but actually it's that holding, it's a prop, it's the sipping, you don't want to look.
There are some amazing beers out there, and they're worth trying. There's even some I like, and I'm not a beer drinker. There's a website called drydrinker.com. Use a discount code ClubSodaVIP. You can actually get a mixed case, because people don't tend to want to buy a whole, even a 6-pack of alcohol-free beers unless they know they like it. It's a really weird thing, because we buy wine and beer all the time, whether we liked it or not. They do mixed cases, and they've started to do the wines and stuff. But Tesco's have just introduced an alcohol-free section to their supermarkets, and it's amazing. And they've got Nanny State, they've got a new beer called Innis and something, which our members are raving about. They've got all the wines, and again, in the wines you get what you pay for, just like you would with alcohol in. And so the Torres wines, which are de-alcoholized at 0.5%, are there, but so are the Iceberg wines, and Iceberg have brought out 2 fizzies, and they've got 4 non-alcoholic wines of red and white and rosé. So try them out and decide what you like, and recognise them for being something sippable that you can have in the evening that's a good replacement. And like I say, what amazes me most is these are all lower in calorie. They won't spike your sugar levels in the same way as alcohol does. And it feels like a bit of a treat. It's not something it's not something you'd also give your kids. And just to let you know, in Britain we have to call 0.5 low alcohol, but really 0.5 is nothing. There is about the same in a ripe banana. There's about the same in the orange juice that's been in your fridge for 3 days and gone through some natural fermentation. You will process that alcohol quicker than you can drink it. So use finding alternatives and things that you can swap out.
That's quite reassuring for people, because if you actually like that taste, and I think you're talking about we learn to like beer or wine or whatever it is as a teenager, and it carries forward, and we've been drinking that for 30 years, it is quite hard to go, oh, I'm just going to have mineral water now. So I think that what did you say it's called? Dry Drinker.
Right. But it also means that you can take these to events, and if I go to weddings and everything, I would just take my own. Nobody cares. It's fine. If you're worried, ask in advance. But places find it really hard to refuse you if you ask them what they've got and they say, "Oh, it's just juice," and you go, "Right, I'm going to bring my own alcohol-free wine." One of our members went to a wedding, but you can asked in advance. She just paid a 50p every time to get them to pour her wine that they put in their fridge. They were absolutely fine with it. Another member asked, and they said no, and she went, "I don't know what to do. It's a wedding on a boat. I'm going to be stuck on a boat with drunk people for hours." And we said, "Hang on a minute. Take your own." And she went, "Oh yeah." And literally throughout the wedding, she posted these photos of her sneaking her alcohol-free wine and going, "Do you know what? What added to the enjoyment was I felt so naughty pouring my own alcohol-free wine." But she said it made it, and I really enjoyed being able to just update you on where I was. So there's a voyage of discovery out there. I went mad with my soda stream when I first gave up, finding all sorts of cordials and bitters and things like that. So see that as part of the journey, and even if it means that you find something that you can swap some of your units out with. So you go, right, well actually on weekdays I'm not going to drink, and if I want a drink I'll have some of these, and I'll save my drinking to weekends or when I'm with friends, or I'm not going to drink at home alone anymore, but I will have an alcohol-free drink. Then that's a good way to make the moderation work for you as well. So,
fantastic. Well, it's good to know Tesco's actually stepping up to the plate.
Alcohol sales have stagnated, and sales in alcohol-free drinks are increasing. So that's interesting. So basically, you're part of a growing trend. You're ahead of the curve.
Hey, exactly. There we go.
Trendsetters.
And you know what? Everyone's always fascinated about the alcohol-free stuff, because everyone wants to know. They're all really interested. And you'll never be short of starting a conversation if what you've got is a pint of tea with the mad tea leaves in the bottom. I can tell you. So find the things that that work for you, but you don't need other people's permission to not drink, and you know, it is, you know, a good thing to try.
Yeah, fantastic.
And it can only bring good things.
Yeah.
Whatever we're talking about,
Yeah.
whichever aspect
Well, hopefully,
of your
yes.
life.
You know,
Yeah.
in
Can
terms of
you
improvement.
ever regret taking a month off drinking? No, probably not. But you could regret, you know, getting drunk every weekend for a month, can't
Yeah.
you? So
And the way it makes you feel, and actually it's quite a depressing time, it
Yeah.
can be. So anything that actually lifts your spirits and
Well, it gives you more energy. Yeah.
cheers to that.
Thank you very much, Laura.
Thanks very much,
That's
Laura.
fantastic.
Great.
Yeah, really, really.